Hello kids, welcome. Today we're going to be solving for volume. Okay. Now, what is volume, you ask? Volume is what is in between. Say we have a square or a rectangle. Say we have a rectangle, The volume is what's in between the rectangle. Well, first, before we get to volume, let's go back to what we learned last time, where we learned about area. So, area, like we remember, for, say, a square or rectangle, is solved by the area equals the length times the width. So the L and W. So if we were to solve it, the area would be the long part and the width would be top to bottom. So if say we had length of 2 and a width of 3, it would be area equals length times, area equals 2 times 3. And we must not forget to put our inches in the brackets. So if we multiply 2 times 3, what would the answer be? 6, yes. Area would equal 6. Okay, now let's talk about volume. So volume would be, volume is adding a whole new word. So volume is solved by, like area, it uses length times multiplication, of course, we're using our multiplication symbol, width. But this time, instead of just length times width, we're going to add another one. This is called height. Can everybody say height? So, say if we had what is called a rectangular prism. So, a rectangular prism would be like this. But you see how we still have the length and the width right here? Well, this time our height is going to be over here. Okay, so if we have a length of 4 and a width of 3, we have what is our height, which is right here. Our height would be, say, 2. So if we had 4 blocks right here and 3 blocks right here, together they would make 12. But this time, since we have our 2, which is our height, because that's how tall it is, this rectangular prism is too tall. It's 2 blocks tall. So if we multiply this, volume, which is we're going to represent is a V, would equal 2 times 4 times 3, which is our height, which is represented by the H, our L for the 4, and our width for the 3. So together, they would make, what would be 2 times 4? 8, correct? 8, nice job. So if we had 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 3 would be 24. Yes. So if we had 24 blocks in here. Ooh, let's not forget our inches. Mr. Austin always forgets his inches. Okay, so for our activity today, students, we're going to be making our rectangular prisms using our 3D blocks. So our 3D blocks would look like this. And we're gonna have them stacked up. We're gonna have them stacked up to make our rectangular prism. Now the goal is we have to make sure that our rectangular prism is a given amount. We gotta show that we have this many blocks. So I'm gonna put another line right here, another line, another line. Okay, so here's an example. So if we had 5, this isn't the best drawing. If we had 5 rows on the bottom of blocks, then we had about 2 rows on the side, which is our width, and we had our height be 2 blocks tall. So it would be 2 inches. And we had to multiply this. How are we going to multiply it? We're going to do length times width times height, okay? So length times width times height. So it would be V equals 2 inches times 5 inches times 2 inches, which would be 2 times 5, which is 10, and then we drop down to 2, multiply 10 times 2, volume would equal 20, because 10 times 2, the 2 to a 0 would be 0, and the 2 to a 1 would be 2. So it would be a 20. So our volume would be 20. This is an example of your activity. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have you guys split up into groups of 2 or 3. We have groups of 3, but mostly I want you guys to have groups of 2 or 3. And I want you guys to have all your little blocks, and I'm gonna have them stacked up for you, and you have to use your rulers and your measuring tools to measure how many blocks are in the length, how many blocks are in the width. Say if we had 2 blocks on the bottom right here, this would be our width, and we had 2 blocks tall, that would be our height. So you have to count how many, or how tall and how long, to solve for the volume. Now for some students, if you guys have gotten it already, if you guys have gotten it already, then we're going to go on to another shape. So we're going to find the volume of a triangle. So here's an example of a triangle. Does anybody know why I drew this down here? Correct. It's a right angle from what we learned last time. So down here, this is called the base, and this is our height. Our height. Let me give you guys a better H than that. So this is our height, okay? Now to solve for a triangle, we would do volume equals 1/2, because we're breaking in half, times the base, which is on the bottom, times the height. So if we had a base of 12 blocks on the bottom. And our height was 2 on top. We have to make sure we can solve this. So our volume would be 1/2 times 12 inches times 2 inches. Let's do 12 times 2. What's 12 times 2? 24. Nice job, guys. So 12 times 2 would be 24. Now, if you guys remember from a couple classes ago, we learned how to take that. If we multiply anything by a fraction, we also give the fraction, the number that's not a fraction, its own 1. So it would be 1/2 times 24 over 1. So that would be 1/2. So if we multiplied those together, the 1 times 24 would be 24 on top. The 2 times 1 in the denominator on the bottom would mean that 2 is in the denominator. So we have 24 in the numerator and 2 in the denominator. So together that would be how many? What's 24 divided by 2? Let's do what we've learned. Our long division. So 2 times 2 would be 1. And we would have, does 2 go into 24? Yes, 12. So if we did 12 times 2, would be 24. So 12. So our volume would equal 12 inches. Okay, so this is an example for the students who are understanding it. I'm going to give you a separate piece of paper so you can do triangles. But for the students who are still understanding rectangular prisms, you guys are going to stick with the volume, solving for volume in a rectangular prism. Now, I'm going to have you guys split up into groups of 2 or 3. And I lost my marker, but I hope you guys I will be sketch back with you guys in a second. And afterwards, we're going to do a little test to see how well we did, okay? Thank you and goodbye.